Another Obey the Puck. Dan Calachico, Dan Law 83, Kelly Levy, Sked Central. We're without Paul. He's on assignment in California. He was actually at the AHL All-Star game. And from the looks of it, him and about 12 other people were at the AHL All-Star game. There was nobody there. Not a good turnout. I expected more from Ontario. Maybe San Diego, because I know San Diego has a really hardcore fan base there. We were watching their playoff games last year, and they were doing very well. And they were very good playoff games.
Yeah, kind of surprising. I was looking up attendance stats, and Ontario actually draws a bigger crowd on average than San Diego. So I don't know if they inflate those numbers. I'm going by numbers posted by HockeyDB, based on box scores and reported numbers. So I mean, those can be inflated, but yeah, kind of surprising. I wonder if they did a bad job promoting the All-Star game, or a lot of times teams will price it really high for some reason,
Yeah.
and their own fans don't show up. So yeah, I don't know what the issue was.
Yeah, that's weird. Like I said, I saw Paul was there, and there was barely any. There was barely anybody. It was not even an okay turnout. It was a good turnout. ECHL was a little better.
Yeah.
Actually, it looked like there was a lot of people there, and it's actually the only All-Star game that we caught anything of.
Yeah, I watched the vast majority of the ECHL All-Star game, which was in Wichita.
We don't like Wichita. Buff Bagwell, wrestler's favorite, best promo he ever did. Best promo he ever did. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I actually really liked the ECHL format. The ECHL's they've done a lot of things over the years. Before everybody was affiliated with an NHL team. They were very much the league where they would try stuff out, because it was all about selling tickets to make money so that they could continue, to have a team. So they would try crazy stuff. This year's format was pretty cool. It is the 3-on-3. They do kind of a round robin tournament. So there's 4 teams. There is a Eastern team, a Western team made up of the selected All-Stars, and then Wichita, which was the host. They made up 2 teams of Wichita players. They had I think it was Team Thunder and Team Bolt, or Team Hammer and Team Bolt.
Hammer and Bolt.
Which plays on the it's part of the logo of the team, but that's part of there's a statue in Wichita that's well known. So it's a kind of Native American statue that features those 2 symbols. So there's 4 teams. They play each other. They actually played each other. Each of the teams played each other for 2 periods. Running clock periods were 7 minutes. Just back and forth action. And so what they did was the 2 teams would play each other. Whoever won, it was a kind of a running goal total. And then in between those games, they would do the skills competition to give everybody a rest after playing. So they would do fastest skater, and then the next 2 teams would play each other, and they do hardest shot, and so on and so forth. I just thought it was nice. They did their All-Star game in one day. I will say that by the final, those guys were tired.
Oh,
that
sure.
that is an awful lot of skating, and especially in a game where there's no defense whatsoever. They were tired. The goalies looked pretty tired as well. But it looked like everybody was having fun. Unfortunately, the final wound up being decided. Oh, that was the other thing that they did in the ECHL. They had a women's player on each of the 4 teams. and they played throughout the tournament. They participated in the skills
And they
tournament.
were really terrible, all of them.
Yeah, they were terrible.
They were terrible.
However,
Goddamn boobs.
however, the difference in the actual final game is, I don't know if anyone really cared about it that much, but it was sort of controversial. There was kind of a breakaway. The goaltender for, I forget which team it was. It was East versus West in the final, so neither of the Wichita teams made it to the final. But I think it was the Western Conference goalie had gone out to play the puck because the puck was kind of going to the far corner.
Oh, that's right. The referee.
The woman player from the Eastern team was the one closest to the puck, so she was trying to get to the puck. So the goaltender and her were racing to get to the puck because she would have had a 1-on-1. The referee got in the way and actually just kind of put his skate blade out and directly passed it to the women's player. Meanwhile, the goaltender was well out of the net, so she had an open net to shoot it in. Now, at the time that happened, I think the Eastern team was up by 2, or so that put them up by 3. The Western team came back. They scored 2 goals, so it was a 1-goal game at the end, and the Eastern team won on the bounce pass from the referee. So,
Unreal.
Yeah, not a good idea. Other than that, though, I really like that format. I thought that was great. You get it done in one day. Everybody's involved. The players seem to be having a good time. There wasn't a huge crowd there, but it was a good crowd. And it was nice to see Wichita. I always kind of forget that they're in the ECHL now. That's one of those teams that's been around. That city in particular, they've been in pretty much every AA level hockey league over the years. But I had fun. I really enjoyed it. Of all the formats, I think that's the best I've seen so far.
I just wasn't into All-Star stuff. I watched I watched the NHL All-Star game, not the skills competition. And the game was fun, and I was invested in the game because Connect Me was there. But the AHL, I also didn't feel well last weekend, and we were traveling, and I was just like, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, all the All-Star games, they're just exhibitions.
Yeah.
There's no hitting, there's no defense. The goaltenders are just hung out to dry. So if you tend to like goaltenders, which I usually, even when I'm watching a game that I don't have any sort of rooting interest in, I'll tend to pick one of the goaltenders and root for them, but I want both of them to do well, kind of thing. And All-Star games can be can be tragic for a goaltender psyche, I guess. But yeah, the 2-day format I think is not good. I really like the skills competition. I kind of wish they would just do the skills competition at this point. Have a running total for the different divisions, and that's the winner.
Yeah.
But why play the game?
Oh.
Especially now that it's 3-on-3 and the weird tournament thing, and it's not even it seems silly at this point. It's time for it to evolve again, in my opinion.
I like the skills competition. I'm not really sure if I'm not really sure I care about the game part of it anymore. I was kind of whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was trying to think back. Hershey had the AHL All-Star game a while ago now, and I actually went to that one. That was the first All-Star game I had ever attended. And I was way more excited for the skills competition, and I actually went to the skills competition, had a really good time, and I did not go to the All-Star game because there was kind of bad weather coming in, and Hershey's it's a 3-hour trip, and I was by myself, so I was like, you know what? I really don't care about the All-Star game. Even when I had tickets and is being hosted, by my favorite team, I was like, I'm good. I saw the skills competition, so I headed home, and I was glad I did. It didn't wind up being a bad weather event, but I was just glad to not have to try to drive in it or any of that.
Well, on to the only, newsworthy thing as far as hockey, but it looks like that the Las Vegas Golden Knights are looking looking into buying an AHL franchise.
Yeah.
Hold the phone, guys. Really? We're going to elaborate in a second, but history has not been very kind to Vegas minor leagues. And it's not the fans. It's not that the fans don't show up. But you're going to elaborate later. But I find it. I have no problems with Vegas. I have no problems with one of my favorite people on Twitter, FK Fun Kelly, in Vegas, loves the team, and will support this team and will support the AHL team. Little too quick. It's third year. Third season. I don't know. What do you think?
I disagree with you.
Get out.
Minor hockey in Vegas has always done very well. The problem in Vegas has always been venue.
That's what I mean. I said it wrong. I wasn't implying that the hockey was bad or the fans didn't show up. It's Vegas doesn't care.
Yeah, well, I mean, in Vegas you have a town that is purely built on tourism. And, you know, especially in, you know, the center of Vegas, it's all about being able to draw a crowd, and hockey definitely has drawn a crowd over the years. There's, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the Las Vegas Thunder of the IHL was the first minor league team there. And they started, early 90s, 93. And they played at the Thomas and Mack Center, which was on the UNLV campus.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And they, as far as I remember, they did pretty well attendance-wise. They were a very good team. They were always in the playoffs, except for the very last season, and the last season was one of those kind of lame duck seasons. They knew they weren't going to be back because
finish.
They knew they weren't going to be back because UNLV wasn't going to negotiate with them to put a new lease in place so that they could rent the arena to play their games in. So they knew that it was the last year for the team, and that's usually, you know, everybody tries to get out of Dodge. Players want to leave, coaches want to leave, no one wants to be involved, because in the minor leagues, it's not just about the players. Everyone involved in a team is trying to move up the ladder. And when
coaches, staff.
Yeah, it's the staff, trainers, you know, everyone, officials, everybody's trying to move up. And when a team is, you know the team's not coming back next year, you want to move on. You don't want to wind up kind of getting dragged down by the team. You want to continue.
You want to have a job.
Yeah, you want to continue your career. You have bills to pay, you know, so everybody kind of moves along, and usually that reflects the performance on the ice.
The Las Vegas Gamblers. What are we considering first minor league? Does the California Nevada Hockey League count?
Maybe.
Okay, because that was first in 68-71.
Wow, I know nothing about that league.
There was also the Las Vegas Outlaws, which was independent from 71 to 73. They were semi-pro, so that doesn't really count.
Oh, okay.
Played independently from a single league, various opponents.
Okay. So they're kind of like a travel team almost.
Yeah, it looks like. Little forward from Lucky State, Saskatchewan. Yeah, no. Then the Thunder. I'm not counting roller hockey. We're talking about ice hockey.
Yeah, there were roller hockey teams there.
Cujo played for the Thunder.
Yeah, a lot of names you would know if you know mid-90s hockey, NHL hockey. They played there. And also the IHL was where a lot of the NHL players went during the 94-95 strike. They went and played in the IHL because the IHL paid more than the AHL.
Yes.
And the AHL was affiliated for the most part with NHL teams, so they couldn't go play for an affiliated team. They could go play for an independent team.
You know who has IHL footage? Our old buddy, Fourth Line Voice.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That was a league that a lot of those teams were on television in the local market too.
Yeah.
They were pushing.
I have no recollection of that league existing when I was a kid. None.
Yeah, they didn't have. It was mostly Midwest and West Coast. They dreamed of being able to be what the WHA was a competitor
And then
for the
fail.
NHL, and then they kind of like they realized I don't think that's going to work, so they wound up being affiliated with the NHL in a lot of cases.
It drives me crazy, and I use the same parallel as wrestling, and then we'll get right back to the Vegas thing. On the IHL case, I always use that with wrestling when we talk about Impact. And I'm not going to beat that dead horse. That's for another podcast for another time. To see the crowds at their peak and how many people were going there, it drives me crazy. It didn't do better. And some of the footage I've seen, a lot of the footage I've seen from Darren and others, people were going to these games.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it drives me crazy that it.
Well, now you never know. I mean, a lot. Like I said, these teams were in big markets that didn't have an NHL team, but they were in big cities: Houston, Chicago,
Houston, there you
Vegas, Long Beach, which is
go.
basically
Wolves, right?
yeah, which is basically Long Beach is basically a LA suburb. So just millions of people. So these were big cities, so they had a huge amount of people to draw from to try to get them into their building. And like I said, they were on television. They were spending money. They were trying to, make this seem like the NHL. That was, what they wanted these franchises to be. It didn't work out that way. But yeah, for Vegas, it was a lease problem. The Thomas and Mack Center didn't want to bother with them anymore, so they shut it down. And then the next team in Vegas was the Wranglers, who were an ECHL team, and they played at the Orleans Arena, which is still there, and which is apparently the arena that the Golden Knights owners they're talking about setting up a lease for this
Very
team,
interesting.
because they have to have a place to play. Again, in Vegas, that's really important. You need to secure a place where your team is going to go. So it'll be interesting. Again, the Wranglers were very popular. They did well attendance-wise. They were really good on the ice. I always remember them. They did a New Year's Eve game. They played really, really late. And then everybody would celebrate New Year's together. And they did well. And again, it came down to the Orleans Arena didn't want to negotiate with them anymore. They were like, we're done. And then, of course, you've got the Golden Knight. The NHL comes to town a couple years later. That's it.
They had a Rod Blagojevich prison uniform night.
Oh, yeah, they had all kinds
Oh,
of...
my God.
They did Elvis night. They had all kinds of... They did all kinds of promotion. It was totally... They were very much the predecessors to what the Golden Knights have done on a smaller scale, smaller budget, but it was all about involving the fans, giving people a reason to come see minor league hockey. Because your diehard hockey fan was going to probably go to a game while they were in Vegas. Maybe not.
Right.
You don't go to Vegas to see a hockey game unless you're a really hardcore hockey fan. So, but they weren't worried about the hardcore hockey fan, their fan base. They had season ticket holders, obviously. They did a lot to try to get people in the building. And if some of those people turned into a ticket holder or, some kind of ticket package, that was great. And it seemed to work.
So my question is, the Wolves are their AHL team right now?
Chicago Wolves are the Golden Knights affiliate.
Do they move that team or do they buy another?
No.
What's the deal?
No, Chicago is not going anywhere.
Do they take the players?
Yes, they can.
That's kinda sus.
It's always fuzzy. But the Chicago Wolves are not going anywhere. The AHL will not allow that franchise.
No, they were too
to move.
popular.
The Wolves are a consistent attendance leader. They're always in the championship mix because that's an ownership group that spends money. They will spend money on their veterans.
Yeah.
They have a certain number of Golden Knights prospects that are there, but they will spend money on their veterans. They want to be in the mix. They lost to the Checkers last year in the finals. I can't think of a I'm trying to think back to the last year that they didn't make the playoffs.
I'll
they're
tell you in a
that,
second.
They're that kind of team. There's no way the AHL
And
moves them.
During the debacle that was whatever what was that cable system, the cable package, Works TV or whatever the hell it was called, where the Blackhawks wouldn't even be showed locally, they were.
Yeah.
And they were dominating.
Yeah, they were.
Well, they're dominating because they weren't on there.
Well, yeah, they were at certain points. They were outdrawing the Chicago Blackhawks because the Blackhawks were not on TV and the Wolves were.
The Blackhawks, they were outdrawing the Blackhawks. Let me see here. Where's the season by season thing? Of course, you're not going to have it.
So yeah, the
2015 was the last year that they did not qualify. 15-16.
Well.
Did not qualify in 15, 12, 13, 10, 11, 8, 9, 5, 6.
Oh well, there's more gaps in there than I
that's
thought.
It, but that's it.
I always think of them as just they were like the Red Wings, like they were always in the playoff mix.
Yeah, but not once did they ever not qualify, then not qualify the next year.
Okay, yeah.
And each time there was only one season where they didn't win in the first round after not qualifying.
Wow. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the AHL would be ridiculous to do anything to mess with that franchise. What I would imagine they would do is if Vegas manages to set up this team, they will take their players out of Chicago, put them in the new team, obviously, and Chicago will just get a new affiliation. Which is fine, but it will never be the Blackhawks, as we went over. There's a long simmering rivalry there, so that's why Rockford exists. Actually, well, how long Rockford exists, we shall see. But
why?
Rockford is the Blackhawks affiliate. They play in Rockford, Illinois.
Yeah. They're not doing well.
And the only reason they exist is that they will not affiliate with the Chicago Wolves because the Chicago Blackhawks and Wolves should be affiliated since they are in the same city, but that will not happen. The talk from the Golden Knights, again, centered on the Orleans Arena. There was some discussion of perhaps putting a team in Reno, which has had hockey in the past. There was a West Coast Hockey League team there. And then the other...
What were they called?
Well, that team was called the Renegades.
God damn it. I can't stump you. Ever.
And then, well, there's also the Reno Rage. That Reno was very much...
Don't be showing off now.
Reno was one of those 1 year and done.
Yeah, I see that.
There was a couple of them, but they were one and dones.
They're saying here it was renamed the Rage.
Oh, okay.
That's what they're saying.
Oh,
it's Wikipedia, so I could edit that they weren't, and it'd be like, oh, sure.
It could be. I just remember there were two different ones really close together timeline wise. So that's kind of a relatively close by town where they could put the team, so the players would be very close by. The other close by area would be Utah, which would be the Grizzly, which are currently an ECHL team. The Grizzly have been an AHL team, and the Grizzly were an IHL team. And that's the same franchise. That franchise is bounced around leagues.
I think it's weird that you could just pull up a team like that. I know it's happened 6 times in the 7 years we've done the show anyway, but I still feel I'm blind. I can't see what I'm doing. RPGs are bad. So anyway, behind the scenes, it's been a rough night trying to get this to work. Again, just don't buy Windows anymore. Windows just likes to hijack your computer and change all your settings whenever it wants, and just makes everything miserable. But so yeah, I guess Vegas is making inroads to make it a one-stop shop. Nothing? Follow up? Nothing?
I mean, that's where the AHL is definitely headed. I mean, we had the mass migration, I don't even know how many years ago now, 5 years ago, something like that, where they just up and took teams for all the California NHL teams, moved their move their teams, in state, in some cases into the same arena as them, because they didn't want their players that far away. The one holdout on that is Vancouver. They have a really good relationship with Utica. And so far, so good for them. But those, that's a continent away almost.
Who wants to go to Utica?
I was looking at the attendance figures to see who might be a likely candidate for a franchise that Vegas could buy. And it looks like Belleville has horrible attendance. I don't know how big that arena is though. That's a former junior Ontario Hockey League
Belleville?
town. I don't know how big it is.
Southerners, right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem that big. But their average attendance this season so far is 2,700. And then Stockton this year is pretty horrible. Attendance.
CAA Arena holds 4,365.
Okay, so Belleville's filling half their arena. Stockton
Thunder
is drawing 2,700 as well on average. And I know they hold more.
It is Stockton Arena, and it holds, drumroll please, 12,000.
Yeah, so now that's one of those teams that was brought out to California. They're the Flames affiliate. So I don't know if that would be a possible relocation. I doubt that highly. They went all through that to get them out there. The other two candidates, and Binghamton has low attendance. That's a relatively small arena. It's also the Devils, and the Devils do not care. They will destroy. Binghamton won't be destroyed. Binghamton's had many hockey franchises. But the Devils just kill all the love of hockey in the town.
I was gonna say nobody will care when the Devils are in town.
Yeah, it'll take.
I'm not saying this as a Flyers fan, and I hate the New Jersey Devils. I do. That's not what we're talking about here. Every time we've talked about it at great length, talk about it now. Every time a minor league, they're in a city and they have a minor league team, they kill it. Trenton, I will hold personally till the day I die. They took the Titans, named them the Devils, and they killed hockey. And then the Flyers came back in, tried to save it. People were like, "We're done." So Trenton, I can see them killing. I saw Binghamton. I don't know. You know better than me.
Yeah, so, that one I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they buy that franchise and move it. And then the other candidate, based on attendance, and this is one that kind of makes sense, is Bridgeport. Because Bridgeport has horrible attendance. They barely this year are pulling more than 3,000 people. And I've watched several games, several Bridgeport games, and 3,000 is generous.
Chris Bork's going to be a Vegas. Chris Bork, the Vegas Borks.
He doesn't play for them.
Where does he? Oh, yes, he does. He plays for the Sound Tigers.
No, he went to Europe this year. I think his brother is still there.
I'll take your word for it. I did not know that. Well, that being said, it's time to end this chaotic night. Kelly, where can people follow you on Twitter?
You can follow me at Skid Central.
Follow me on Twitter, DanLow93, HIC Talk Radio Network. Podcast is at HIC Talk Radio on all social media platforms. VOC Nation Radio Network. Search that on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. So for your Android and your iPhones. Or, watching this microphone act weird over here. You will never see on camera. It's really weird. Or, go to thebradyhicks.com, which is getting a makeover. So, new website coming up soon. For Kelly Levy and the absentee Paul Baker, I'm Dan Calchico. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.